Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Late night talk show host Stephen Colbert and his wife Evie have a new cookbook together. It's called Does This Taste Funny? And we've got them on the pod talking about their inspirations behind the food they cook at home. Unsurprisingly, Stephen Colbert talks about his mom, and he paints a familiar scene of a mom doing what she can to whip up something the family will eat and, just get it on the table. We'll hear that full interview in a bit, but when I heard that part of the interview, I was reminded of another famous TV figure, Ina Garten, the Barefoot Contessa herself. She's got a memoir out titled Be Ready When the Luck Happens. NPR's Shapiro spoke to her, and she also talked about her mom's utilitarian approach to food, but it had a very different impact on her than it did on Colbert. You'll get what I mean when you hear it. That interview's up ahead.
This message comes from MIDI Health. If you're a woman over 40 dealing with hot flashes, insomnia, weight gain, or brain fog, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. The clinicians at MIDI Health understand what you're experiencing and know how to help. MIDI Health provides specialized care for perimenopause and menopause covered by insurance. Book your visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. This message comes from Wondery and T-Boy. The Best Idea Yet is a new podcast about the untold origin stories of the products you're obsessed with and the people who made them go viral. Listen to The Best Idea Yet wherever you get your podcasts.
Ina Garten has built a career as the Barefoot Contessa, making simple, good food that people can eat at home. There are the TV shows, more than a dozen best-selling cookbooks, and it all started with a market in the Hamptons called the Barefoot Contessa. It was 1978. Garten was a discontented federal government employee sitting at her desk when she came across an ad in the newspaper. The other day, Ina Garten told me she hadn't seen or thought of that ad in years until the co-writer of her new memoir, Be Ready When the Luck Happens, dug it out of the archives.
And when we saw the ad, it's a really stupid little ad. And what appealed to me about this ad is incredible. I mean, first of all, it was like it was a shop in the Hamptons spelled SHOPPE.
So pretentious.
Nobody would answer that ad.
The phrase that stands out to me in the ad is unlimited potential.
Yeah, that wasn't true either.
And yet it was uncannily accurate.
It was, actually. You're right. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right.
Garten didn't grow up in a family that valued great food or entertaining. In the 1950s, her mother ran a traditional home where food was strictly fuel.
My mother thought food was for nourishment. My mother really didn't connect with people. So I think that she did what she thought a mother should do, but didn't really understand what it was about. And so she got food on the table, but it was broiled chicken and canned peas, and it was devoid of any flavor. And it was also devoid of any pleasure. There were no carbohydrates. There was no fat. There was nothing that would give anybody any sense of well-being.
So you didn't get your love of food from your parents, but there was one detail from your family history that stood out to me, which is that your grandfather, who immigrated from Russia, opened a candy store.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Do you think you inherited something from him?
I think I inherited something more from my grandmother, who loved to cook. And many years later, when my grandfather had a business, which we euphemistically called scrap metal, but it was really basically a junkyard, where they separated parts of cars. All the employees knew that they could come next door where my grandparents lived and just help themselves to anything in the refrigerator. And my grandmother was always cooking.
So where do you think you got your love of cooking from?
I think it's kind of I can't tell you. It's either in my DNA or it's, I was so desperate for flavor when and joy when I was a kid that I always wanted to cook. And I think food was never given as in the way I feel it. It's something you do for somebody you love, and it's a way to take care of them. It was just missing from my childhood.
One thing that stood out to me as I read this book was that while people think of you as a great cook and entertainer, you also had to figure out pricing spreadsheets and how to manage a staff and figure out a supply chain. And eventually you became your own art director for all of your cookbooks, all while churning out 1,000 baguettes a day. So How have you handled the learning curve of taking on all the new tasks that have been thrown at you your whole life?
I think I seek them out. I think I'm not happy if I don't have a challenge I think I can't meet. So when I was in a specialty food store with no experience at all, I asked Diana Strada, who sold me the store, to stay with me for a month to teach me what I needed to know, thinking, of course, you could learn it in a month. She taught me a lot of things that were really important, but I had to figure the rest out. And I really like that process. I like taking something really complicated and sorting out how to do it. When I sold the store, I thought, well, maybe my career is behind me. Maybe the best thing I've ever done will have been Barefoot Contessa. And then when I started writing cookbooks, I realized all of those years I spent running a specialty food store and selling people things that they like to eat at home, roast chicken, roast carrots, simple food, coconut cupcakes. That informed my experience writing a cookbook, because I was writing a cookbook for people who were cooking at home. And then when I was doing it on TV, I'd written cookbooks, so I knew how to do it step by step, and I felt confident.
I don't know why this detail stands out to me, but there was a night that you slept on a shelf of your shop because you were just working all hours of all day and night.
I was too tired to go home.
So it really doesn't come easy. I mean, it really does cost a great sacrifice.
I think that it's really important to know that you need to do the work, that you can't learn it from somebody else. You have to learn it by your own experience. I mean, it's like, I always say this, anybody can fly an airplane. It's what you do when something goes wrong. That's when you really learn.
Since you brought it up, you have a pilot's license too.
Yeah, but luckily for people in the air, I don't use it.
Still. When you were a kid, your father would always ask what you accomplished each day. And one of the revelations that you have reached as an adult is that doing what you love can be an accomplishment. And so when people ask you how to turn doing what they love into their life's work, what do you tell them?
Figure it out. There's always a way to figure out how to do what you love doing. You love traveling? Go into the travel business. When I had my store, I had a customer whose specialty was helping people figure out what their career should be. And I said to her, what do you ask them? I mean, what do you need to know in order to help people? And she said, I asked them what they used to do when they were 10, because that's what you would do when you were just doing things for fun. You were doing what you felt like doing, not like you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor. You could just do whatever you wanted to do. You were putting on plays with your friends. Maybe you should be in theater.
These days, if I say something is in the style of Ina Garten, everyone knows what that means. Like welcoming, fresh. Oh, absolutely. Abundant, indulgent without being fussy or over the top. There is an Ina Garten style.
Thank you.
It is comfort food with an upgrade. How did you figure out what that style? I'm surprised that you're surprised to hear that. I would think that that's like deeply baked into your DNA.
Well, I love that description of what I love to do. I always think it's easy to make something simple. It's hard to make something simple and really interesting. So I've, over the years, kind of embraced where those two things intersect. But then I'm always looking for what simple thing can I do to make this taste better? I remember I was making a lentil soup with my assistant, and I said to her, taste it, and she tasted it. And then I thought, there's just something missing. And she said, it's delicious. It doesn't need anything. And I said to her, and I went to the refrigerator and I took out a bottle of red wine vinegar. And maybe I put a tablespoon in this huge pot of lentil soup. And I said, now taste it. And I've learned over the years that it's the thing that gives something an edge. And vinegar or lemon juice or Parmesan, something like that, really kind of wakes up all the flavors in a dish. And so that's what I'm always looking for. And it doesn't have to be a complicated thing or an expensive thing. It can be something that's already in your refrigerator.
Well, Ina Garten, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for spending the time with us.
Thank you so much, Ari. It was great to talk to you.
Her new memoir is called Be Ready When the Luck Happens.
This message comes from Capital One, offering commercial solutions you can bank on. Now more than ever, your business faces unique challenges and opportunities. That's why Capital One offers a comprehensive suite of financial services, all tailored to your short and long-term goals. Backed by the strength and stability of a top 10 commercial bank, their dedicated experts work with you to build lasting success. Explore the possibilities at CapitalOne.com/commercial, a member FDIC.
I'm not sure I can wrap my head around married couples working together, but Stephen Colbert and his wife Evie did just that for their new cookbook, Does This Taste Funny? NPR's Shapiro spoke with the two of them, and Stephen Colbert says that he was actually nervous about working with his wife, that they'd actually been offered to do a cookbook together before this, but it wasn't until COVID happened that he felt they could pull it off. Here's the interview.
Stephen Colbert and his wife Evie both grew up in the Lowcountry of Charleston, South Carolina. But as kids, they never met.
Yes, we grew up in the same town together, but one of us is a year older.
Yeah, that's
and I'm
the
not
truth,
supposed
Ari.
to say
He's
which
younger
one.
than I am. Just 1 year.
Just
but
1 year.
in high school, that's a huge difference.
Because she went to the girls' school and I went to what had been mostly a boys' school, and they mixed on dances, like, 8th grade dance, 9th grade dance. And so we weren't in the same dance together. So how would I meet her?
As adults, they moved away. And in 1990, they were both visiting Charleston for the annual Spoleto Arts Festival. Each of them went to the opera with their mothers.
I remember seeing Stephen walk into the theater with his mother on his arm, and I thought, that man loves his mother. You could just see.
That is a good way to choose a husband. Somebody who treats
actually a really great
women
way
in
to
his family well.
100%.
Well, now, more than 30 years after they got married, Stephen Colbert and Evie McGee-Colbert have written a cookbook together called Does This Taste Funny? Recipes Our Family Loves. Many of those recipes come from Evie's late mother, who was renowned for entertaining.
The first thing I had at the McGee house was the Patty McGee's cheese biscuits.
Which was like a top secret recipe until this cookbook, right?
Exactly.
So what's the secret?
Mom would
Butter?
say the secret is 1 stick butter, 1 stick margarine, because she felt that sort of balance instead of 2 of margarine or 2 of butter.
Stephen, you were one of 11 kids.
I'm the youngest of 11, which is a key position.
Yeah. So efficiency was more important than elegance when it came to food in your childhood home.
My mother did not make any recipes that could not be found on the back of a ketchup bottle.
But you did learn some skills that are relevant to the kitchen.
Well, sure, because if you wanted something that wasn't at the proper mealtime, you had to go make it yourself.
I was thinking like you learned fishing, crabbing, shrimping.
Oh,
like,
sure. Because I grew up on James Island, South Carolina.
Yeah.
See, this is the city girl who lived in downtown Charleston. I lived out in the country on a dirt road on James Island. So I was out there catching my own brim and crab and shrimp
I did
and
that too, by the
flounder.
way.
What I'm
You
building
didn't do
up
it as
to
much
is
as I did because you were off playing with your dolls without faces.
Dolls
And
without
you're-
faces?
Well, she
Wait,
grew up
what?
like a Little House on the Prairie or something.
like made of
She grew
corn
up,
husks or that kind
she
of
doesn't
thing?
have any like early 70s TV references because when I was watching TV, she was like, I was playing with paper dolls in my attic.
So wholesome.
She had like you had a
wholesome.
19th century childhood in downtown Charleston. You did. You had very traditional. Yes.
I wanted to know if you've retained these skills. And so we brought a whole salmon that's under the table and a knife, scales, head, tail,
I will
everything.
fillet
And
them.
No wonder
Can
it
you-
smells a little odd in here.
I will fillet the hell out of that thing.
Can you still do that? Do you still like?
I can do that on a rocking boat, baby.
Really?
Oh yeah. We were just out. I fish whenever I can. We were 70 miles offshore, caught a beautiful wahoo. I filleted just the tail piece, chopped it up, threw it in a little container there with some salt and some lime and some cilantro and a little chopped up shallot. Close that thing up, put it in the cooler. By noon, that's about 8 a.m. when you catch the first fish.
You just
by
leveled
noon,
up.
I
You're
was going
like,
to say, Ari, that was the best question.
By noon, it's
You've been asked in a
ceviche,
week.
baby. Get yourself a Corona.
suddenly this
We're good.
interview got a very different vibe.
No kidding.
We started talking about fishing and knives.
Okay, you say you want this book to feel like hanging out with you in the kitchen. Paint a picture for us. What does that feel like with the two of you?
Maybe a little bit of the animosity we're having right now.
Well, who's in control of the pan? That's the issue. Who is in control of the pan at any one time? We've learned 31 years into our marriage, we are now finally willing to sous-chef for the other one.
Well, because one of you is a chaos Muppet and one of you is an order Muppet, right?
I'm the order Muppet.
Shocking.
Shocking. I know. Very surprising.
And I'm going to figure it out as we go, man. That's why I don't bake. because you have to be a rule follower.
You can't improvise a cake.
Right.
Yes,
You
Evie
can't.
was the salutatorian of her class.
I don't know that word.
It's not the valedictorian. It's
valedictorian.
number
It's like
two.
the runner-up. It's the
It's number
silver
two.
medalist.
Yes,
Yeah, the also.
exactly. So she follows rules. She does the homework assignments.
I do the homework assignment 100%.
And I improvise.
For people who are not familiar with the Lowcountry, with South Carolina, with Charleston, how would you describe what the food of that community, of that place is?
Seafood is the number one thing because Charleston is so low-lying that it's not like on the sea. It's frequently in the sea. It's not particularly complicated, but it's really fresh seafood ingredients with a heavy West African influence because of the West African slave trade. We have okra, we have red rice, which is very much like jollof or yolof rice from West Africa, peanuts, sesame. All of that is still in all the cuisine of South Carolina and the Lowcountry.
Evie, you're more vegan than not, so what is your favorite?
I'm so selectively
I'm a little
vegan.
more. I'm a pescatarian now.
Sure.
Cheese and I are good friends again.
I
We made
absolutely
it up.
understand. This book has got a lot of meat recipes.
Right,
What's
right.
your favorite little trick to make something meatless?
Well, so Stephen did a great thing with this red rice he was talking about. Usually it's made with bacon and bacon fat. And he said, let's try it with smoked salt and a little anchovy. It's so good.
Oh, that sounds great.
It's actually better. I would challenge anyone to try the original with what's in our cookbook. It's so much better. Now, shots fired. I realize that.
There's room for a lot of variations.
That's right.
Purity is not the goal.
That's true.
Stephen, you've written a lot of books, but none quite like this one.
None as good as this one.
None as good as this one. Well, because with this one, you had a collaborator who you've been married to for many years.
I know. I was nervous about that.
Really? What were you nervous about?
Well, we were nervous about just working together at all, but COVID threw us together because Evie was my crew and my audience and my only guest. And I was super nervous when we started that. I was like, well, what if she doesn't like this? What if I'm a horrible boss? Or what if I'm a boss at all? Because that's not our relationship at all. But we had such a good time that I had been offered the opportunity to do a cookbook before, but it wasn't until we worked together and had a good time I went, oh no, this would be fun to actually just sort of extend this relationship we've already started during the COVID shows and to do a project together. And it was nerve-wracking at first, but it turned out to be a complete joy.
Can we conclude with a lightning round?
Oh, sure.
Best way to eat a potato?
Scalloped.
French fry.
Okay.
Okay, dish you're most famous for?
Oh,
Red
lentil
rice.
soup.
Red rice, lentil soup. Most useful kitchen skill?
Spatula. You have to be able to flip something really
Your
quickly.
personal most useful kitchen skill.
That's all I can do.
You can flip that thing with a spatula. Stephen?
Dicing.
Dicing. Okay. Most obscure kitchen skill?
Pick up hot things.
You've got asbestos
I got
fingers.
a better
Asbestos
one.
fingers.
I got a better one. Deveining a shrimp.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very low country.
Yeah.
Biggest kitchen disagreement?
Well,
Do you have to peel tomatoes?
yes.
No.
Your spouse's most annoying kitchen habit?
Oh boy.
Oh.
Well, one
Well,
of
sometimes, and it's been almost 31 years, but sometimes Evie likes to stir the bottom of a nonstick pot with a metal spoon.
and sometimes Stephen can be very bossy and critical.
Okay. What you cook to tell your spouse, I love you?
Oh. Stephen used to make me scones every Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I loved those.
Lentil soup, banana bread for you.
Banana bread. I make a lot of banana bread.
Yeah.
I did try, I think I talk about it in the cookbook. I tried when we first got married to make chicken l'orange because he said he loved it. I never made it right. I gave up.
You still have not made it right.
You tried.
I tried.
It's what my mom would make for my birthday every year.
Last question of the lightning round. Best drink to unwind with after a grueling NPR interview?
I'm a simple man. I like an old-fashioned.
Well, we're coming off of summer. I'm still an Aperol Spritz girl, but I mean, I guess in the winter, maybe I like Chardonnay. A couple of glasses of that.
Couple 2-3 glasses of Chardonnay.
You
This
know
one
that I can
loosens up.
unwind.
Yep.
Stephen Colbert and Evie McGee-Colbert, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you,
was
Ari.
fun.
It was great.
Their new cookbook is Does This Taste Funny? Recipes Our Family Loves.
And that's it for this week on NPR's Book of the Day. Let us know what you think. You can write to us at bookoftheday@npr.org. I'm Andrew Limbong. The podcast is produced by Chloe Weiner and edited by Sarah Crawford. Our founding editor is Petra Mayer. The show elements for this week were produced and edited by Adriana Gallardo, Julie Deppenbrock, Will Jarvis, Laura Magaki, Justine Kennan, Elena Burnett, Melissa Gray, Samantha Balaban, Courtney Dording, Vincent Acovino, Kai McNamee, and Noah Caldwell. Beth Donovan is our managing editor. Thanks for listening.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Rosetta Stone, an expert in language learning for 30 years. Right now, NPR listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership to 25 different languages for 50% off. Learn more at rosettastone.com/NPR.
Support for NPR and the following message come from IXL Learning. IXL Learning uses advanced algorithms to give the right help to each kid no matter the age or personality. Get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when you sign up today at IXL.com/NPR. Support for NPR and the following message come from Rosetta Stone, the perfect app to achieve your language learning goals no matter how busy your schedule gets. It's designed to maximize study time with immersive 10-minute lessons and audio practice for your commute. Plus, tailor your learning plan for specific objectives like travel. Get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off and unlimited access to 25 language courses. Learn more at rosettastone.com/NPR.